Yes, welcome one, welcome all to the Inner Sanctum today on a Wednesday morning, 7:18. Looks like it's going to be a nice day, the way things are going out the window. And it's a nice time to be alive if you're a Western Bulldogs supporter, because they are sitting pretty second on the table, 7-1 at the moment. And one of the reasons is the form of their captain, Marcus Bontempelli, who's a part of our team. Bont, good morning.
Good morning, mates. Great to be back.
Great to have you with us.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've been back in studio, I reckon. So feels good. Feels normal again.
Well, things are going pretty well for you, and highlighted by your recent acting performance in the Amy commercial. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we were just sort of laughing a little bit off air, in football clubs and probably in general, you do anything different and you're open to feedback. And I think the best feedback I got was it was not bad. And in a football club, if someone tells you it's not bad, that's pretty good. Normally it's, you haven't done yourself any favours there. So, hearing that, I was okay. I could sort of move forward and know maybe I've done okay.
That's Academy Award-winning type stuff when someone says it was not bad.
Yeah,
That's like you are.
Top of the pops.
Spot on. So, I think I'll take that and just run with it a little bit.
When you get those requests and someone comes and says, "We want you to do this commercial," do you sit there and go, "Oh, I don't know, this could be really pear-shaped"?
You do a little bit, and I think sometimes you just got to, back yourself in. And not that I've had a great deal of prior experience, but I thought something a little bit different. I probably haven't done before, and I'm a bit, always open to I guess, new things and wondering how I might fit into that world a little bit. But I think it's only dipping my toe in the water. I'm not sure I'll divert fully into that industry. I'll probably stick to footy for a little bit longer. But it was a fun ad to do as well, which was part of the appeal, that I could see it would be sort of humorous as well. Sort of on my own behalf, even it meant people laughed at what I was doing. So that was probably a big driver in the end.
You did a bloody good job, I reckon. Bloody good job. Have you seen Ferris Bueller?
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah.
Is that the vibe we're trying to get from that?
Little bit, I reckon. that was mentioned for sure.
Yeah, right.
So if that hit, great.
That's what I took out of it.
Oh, good. There you go.
Concerned about the bloke cutting the hair, though. I'm concerned about him. I'm not sure I'm going to him anytime soon. I haven't got no hair, of course.
It was a genuine. I think there was a bit of a concern that someone would lose their ear in the with all the hands flailing around. But he'd done it before, so he was very good, the barber, and he made some great facial expressions, and I felt genuinely disappointed when he turned to look at me. So the emotion was conveyed properly. Yeah.
There's a real lingo going on too.
Yeah.
Emotion conveyed, all that sort of stuff. I'll tell you what you're doing. You're getting the emotions of the Bulldog supporters very much involved in the contest these days. A fantastic game on the weekend against the Blues. Not so much because you dominated all the way through, but the fact that you found a way to find solutions to the problems you were facing in the second half in particular must have been very satisfying.
It was. It seemed like we probably started the game well, I guess, from a momentum point of view, managed to put a couple on the board. But really then, Carlton, who I think we all, respect the fact that they're a good team, and their stuff around the football and even in the forward half and the players they've got in the back end are all very good players. So we needed to find a bit probably, post half time. And even then, we felt like we were still doing things, I guess, relatively well in the third quarter, but we weren't, putting it into scoreboard impact. And then it just sort of felt like the back end of that third quarter, we had a few good moments. There were a few sort of contests that you felt like, I think, we built a bit of momentum up this quarter and managed to then, bridge that into the fourth. So, yeah, good win after not playing our best for, a half or, 2.5 quarters.
And I was going to ask you about the previous week when you were playing against the Tigers. The reverse of that happened where they were able to overrun you in that second half. Was that spoken about? Did that form part of your strategy in being able to finish a game off well?
A little bit. It does definitely form part of your thinking going into the next game, because probably the way we've treated it more so in recent times, and other clubs may do this too, but we review games less in the sense of the previous game and more in terms of the coming game. Like if this was a part of our fault in the Richmond game. What do we have to do to make sure it's not in the next game in a way? So you're always sort of bridging from game to game. And, it did form part of our build-up and thinking, but clearly then, we're in a somewhat similar position, but, we needed to fix probably the contest and the stuff around the ball and make sure that was right, and then felt like the rest of our, game would probably come to the floor. So, it always presents as a challenge, but felt like we managed to get that better and right in the second half.
And so when you were talking about that as a group on the weekend against the Blues, was it a really process-driven thing about the things you needed to do, or was there a bit of emotion there that kind of helped to instigate that?
Bit of both. I think you always need to find or strike a balance, and Bevo's always been a good motivator, but he obviously, in that instance, at halftime needed more and was asking for more, but tied it in quite nicely with probably, the themes and probably processes in terms of knowing that it wasn't anything different, and that's what you hear a lot out of football clubs, that when they play well and when we play well, the key things that sort of lead to us doing that are the same. They don't really shift, and we just needed to do probably what we've done in the past a lot better, and that really got us back into the game.
17 disposals yourself in the second half. It was pretty inspiring stuff watching it. Did you feel you had to lift as captain and to get your team back rolling again, or did it just happen naturally?
Yeah, not as probably captain. Oh, that's probably not. I think I've always probably carried that expectation when the team's somewhat down on form. When I'm down on form, you need to find a spike, and obviously halftime gives you a good chance to assess that and sort of self-reflect a little bit without diving too deep into why. Sometimes, when you're not playing well or you haven't, from a quality perspective, got enough out of your disposals or your efforts or whatever it is, your tackles. So we all needed a bit of a spike across the board. We had a couple of players who were still influencing the game the way we wanted to, but clearly not enough. So, as a player, you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to go, righto, register, how can I change things, and quickly be able to, reset and then start influencing. So my mindset's probably just my next effort, my next chance. That's where I'm going to, 100% on it almost, and then keep bridging from effort and moment to moment. And you just start to break the game down into, smaller moments, and then find that hopefully you build some momentum and consistency in your game. So the captaincy thing probably doesn't become a driver. It's more just, I need to play well for the team here, and maybe, you can walk away saying that was the case, but I just needed to play better, and so did some of the boys. So
you know yourself what you need to do. You don't go to one of the assistant coaches or to Luke and say, look, something's not working here. It might be a starting position thing or whatever it is. Is there something that I need to improve, or you've got a pretty good understanding yourself?
Yeah, I just think over time and probably, through, relationship with Joel Corey, who is a past coach of mine, and the work that we've done over years and years, you do sort of feel yourself able to self-assess and recognise the parts. Like, I don't think it was an effort-based thing for me. It was probably more a quality thing. So still producing the same amount of sort of effort and intent, but then from a quality perspective, that needed to lift because we weren't using the ball well going forward. I'd butchered a number of kicks and maybe a few others had too. So we weren't even helping ourselves when we had ball in hand. It wasn't just without it. So we just needed to get our quality up, really, and go forward and obviously kick goals, but play, on our terms a little bit. So it felt like there was a bit of a shift definitely from halftime onwards.
And you had to eliminate that undisciplined part of your game where you kicked it deliberately out of bounds.
Yeah. He felt like, I think you can all attest that I'd kicked it sort of to space, but obviously Mitchie, as I'd sort of looked down, had tripped somewhat or been tripped. So I think, there's a moment.
You should have planned for that.
I know. I should have, in my thinking, I should have calculated for it. But there's always a moment, like, when everyone sort of holds their breath. Like, it's the same out on the ground. You're like, then you're looking, well, who am I picking up now? So you quickly sort of move on, but it's just part of the game. People make mistakes, we make mistakes, and so do sometimes, I guess, umpires as well. But, you move on. Yeah.
Would be getting too bogged down in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Particularly when you get a win. Centre clearance is what I want to talk to you about. You talked about positioning before and Joel Corey and that sort of stuff. The impact of Tom Liberatore on your ability to go from inside to out really quickly. Watching it on the weekend, I was sitting there gobsmacked at how good he was and how fast he was, how clean he was. He went through a phase of not having much impact at all in the team, dropped a couple of times, and now he's back in career best form, I would say. What's been the turnaround in Tom, and how does he do it?
I still don't know. That's probably the thing after playing with him for, seven, almost to 8 years. We still marvel, even, reviewing, stoppage clips and as a team. And when you see him find a way to find teammates, or his awareness and his ability to hear the voice and know, it's like he's looked at something, he's almost taken a picture of it in his head, been able to turn around, hunt the footy, and then know if it's changed or not, like based on what he feels like or the voice. So because it happens too often for him to be able to extract and then find a teammate without almost looking at times.
He's
or
remarkable.
Just being able to use his the spatial awareness of the probably ends of his vision. So I don't necessarily see things having changed too much for him. Continuity helps with your body being able to train and find some consistency in your building and rebuilding your craft, but fitness as well, being able to get out on the track enough. So a lot of it's been that, but I think ultimately we just know what Tom's really good at, and he probably does too. He knows where his strengths lie, and we allow him and he allows himself just to go to work on that, and we all benefit on the outside. So he's an incredible player, one of, I guess, my favourite teammates over the journey, because he brings so much more than just his hands and grunt inside.
Yeah, well, 23-7 was the centre clearance number on the weekend. It was a smacking. Did you go through the game before? Essendon played Carlton, I think, the week before, and they got pants in the centre bounce as well. Was that used as a way to try and find holes in them?
We always will obviously preview teams, from stoppage sense all around the ground, centre bounce, ball ups, throw-ins, and the like. And you're always looking for opportunities. And I think we probably didn't change too much to probably previous weeks. And you just know that at some point there's going to be a contest element in centre bounce, but it's your biggest opportunity to get territory from a stationary part of the ground, and you can obviously get pretty deep in your forward line, and we're pretty blessed in a way that we've got two really good marking targets in Josh Bruce and Aaron Norton. When we come out, that they're looking pretty lively. But obviously every centre bounce is important. It's a good opportunity to take you forward.
Adam Treloar's another one that I've loved watching his story and the transition with what happened last year over to your club. What impact has he had, not just on the field, which is obviously what we all see, but what has he brought to the club? Because it just feels like that's been something that's given you a real lift.
Yeah, off field he's added another layer to, I guess, when you see how much importance he puts on, his body, his career, his playing output, contributing and being a team player. It just has added another really strong layer to that part, the off-field side of our team, and another great trainer who drives standards. And that's one of the things we've sort of, I guess, targeted coming out of last season as being a real opportunity for us to grow. And internally with the people you've already got is obviously a big factor, but then when you're able to bring in people like him and Steph Martin as well, who's another seasoned vet, I guess you'd call them, but who know what works for them. They know how to train, they know how to get the best out of themselves. So adding a person like Adam and also Steph, who both view their training and their careers as really important, just helps. And then obviously on field, what you're saying from Adam, probably more specifically with his speed and his ability to finish and his class, it just adds another layer on the outside for us and inside too, but a quality ball user for sure.
Brad Johnson said on our program a couple of weeks ago he thinks you're better than your premiership year as a team. You're 7-1 at the moment. I guess you failed the test against Richmond, the premiers, but you've been very good. Do you feel this is as good a team that you've been part of?
I do. I think obviously you look at a period of form as an assessment, and I just feel like we're probably, obviously we were able to go on and win in 2016, but from a consistency point of view, I probably find, without comparing the teams too much, that this is probably a more consistent bunch in terms of our output probably, and having probably more, mature in that middle part of the list. Like obviously a lot of us were quite young during that sort of 2016 year, which we've all probably at that 24 to 20 sort of 6-7 range. So I think we benefit from that, having been through that experience, and then the years following, the lean years following, and not being able to get back up there. And you certainly learn from that. So a lot of the aspects of our game are similar to that. Obviously, we've just got a few different sort of weapons in terms of forward and back. So it's a different team, but hopefully capable of doing some pretty good things still.
And the pressure on spots, I think, has to be advantageous for you. I watched the game a couple of weeks ago in the VFL, and you see the quality of players that are playing in the VFL, and the fact that Mitch Wallace can't get a game and he's your vice captain. How much of that helps, just that edge during the week of pressure on spots and all that sort of thing?
It is. It's a super. I guess it's not a measurable factor in terms of you can't put a number to it or a stat that suggests that it's contributing, but it does. It makes the training, standards are higher week to week. Habits are continuously more and more. And as the season goes, that's naturally probably the effect anyway, because your SORA recovery is important, but it creates a really important pillar, I guess, within the football club for our team and our players to continue to strive to be better and be in the team and hopefully be part of winning games. But their form back in the VFL has been really good too, and that's important for our VFL listed players who are obviously not AFL listed, that get the opportunity to play with good players and in good teams and create, I guess that winning culture is what you're after. So it's become a really important factor for us.
Is Mitch going okay? Because, as I said, vice captain of the club, you'd clearly want to be playing in the seniors, and he's played so well over the last couple of years. How's he going?
Yeah, he is. It's obviously a difficult position to be in for Mitch. He wants to be playing, clearly. He wants to be able to contribute, and he's still doing that. I guess at VFL level, he's setting a great example for our younger players who see an established player who needs to come back to the VFL to continue to build form and build parts of their game to continue to be an influence. So from a what you can ask of Mitch's perspective, you can't ask much more in terms of that. It's just the football side of things, and he needs to continue to chip away at it. And obviously, he's in always conversations with Bevo and the coaches around continuing to be that influence.
Let's go back to what Whitey was talking about there, that you're a seriously good team, and you did fall short in the test against Richmond last week in the second half. Are there moments like that for good teams that the conversation post is more about, okay, this is what great teams do. This is why great teams are great teams, because they can find a way when the pressure's against them, the world's against them, the game's against them. This is what Richmond are. This is where we need to get to. Was there a bit more of an in-depth discussion about what you need to do as a group going forward to achieve possibly what you want to achieve this year?
I wouldn't say it was like we were forecasting, too far ahead around. Obviously there's an expectation. You probably just know. I mean, we've played in games like that before in finals too, that there's an extra sort of edge. There's an element you need to be able to build up to and reach. And Richmond have been obviously the benchmark team for the last couple of years. So you have to expect teams like that to find and spike potentially when they're a little bit down or they get on top. And I think it's more, it's a learning experience for us that to be, up against, like I said, that one of the best teams of the last couple of years. Expect that there's going to be a spike, but as much as we can, stay on top of the contest and keep the edge in our game. And in today's game, it's like probably any other year, but with longer quarters and the interchange, that when teams spike and get momentum, they can really run away with it. And if you're obviously fit enough and capable enough, you can really close teams out. So it just goes to show how important the momentum is, and not letting teams get it, but also trying to create it as much as possible for you.
And what were your feelings at the end of that Richmond game? Were you annoyed? Were you pragmatic? Were you disappointed? Were you pleased? What were your personal feelings?
I was pleased. It was probably a combination of all. I just remember going off. I was, walking off the ground, standing next to sort of Aaron Norton. We were just, talking about different aspects of the game. But ultimately, it felt like around the ball, our contest and our probably edge, which we've probably been sort of somewhat known for in the first 6 weeks of the season. That's where it just came off, and Richmond probably saw that it had, and they spiked, and then we couldn't quite bridge it. But late in the halfway through the fourth quarter, Pat Lipinski's running in, he hits the post. We're sort of them down by sort of 5 points or so. If he kicks it, we're probably tied up, and then, you wonder what happens from there. Like, the game's tied and things can change a little bit. So it wasn't like a huge misstep, just felt like good learning experience for us to know that that's what, it's what it's going to take to beat the good teams. You can't come off your edge.
I think we can read into that, Sherelle, that Pat Lipinski will never play again.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite.
It's
Not
a line
quite.
through his
Yeah.
name. That is a line. Can I take you off-field for a moment, Marcus? You're talking about the Tigers. They've obviously had their issues with their a couple of off-field things happening recently. One of your teammates, Josh Dunkley, was talking about an incident you had in Noosa when some people approached you and were giving you a hard time. You're looking surprised at that. I'm wondering, with your behaviour in terms of how you socialise, how you go out, does it really impact the decisions you make, what your experiences are when you do that?
Yeah, it does, and it maybe somewhat always has for me. Probably just because I'm thoughtful when it comes to public domains, and I think as you do develop somewhat of a reputation, or I heard Adam last night talking a little bit about it. On I think 360 was just when you're an established player and your thinking does become will I feel comfortable in that space and that domain, and I think that's just sort of somewhat part and parcel of being an elite athlete. Is it's one of the things you have to consider when you're going out, and the old saying of not much good happens after 12 or 1. It is fair, like things they're out of your control probably after that time, and it's difficult, but I sort of feel like you've got to be mature enough to obviously make those decisions, and you need a life. I think that's the other true sort of sentiment that's come through, is you got to continue to find ways to get your release and be, I guess, normal and just be like everyone else. And for some people, and me at times, is being able to go out for a beer and just relax, but you are consciously probably thinking about where and when and the timing. So yeah, that might have happened in Noosa. It wasn't anything difficult, but you just got to play it, smart in a way, and sometimes just remove yourself from the situation, head somewhere else, or just head home. And it's, there'll always be another chance to be able to relax and let your hair down, but it is a thought that you need to process.
Has it changed with what you went through last year with the bubble and lockdown and all that sort of thing, as maybe your perspective on life or what's important to you, having balance in your life and all that sort of thing? Has that changed at all?
I think it definitely forced you to put more, thought into it of how you managed to get that release, and obviously at times you weren't able to in the hub, and it was a challenging circumstance. All the while things back home in Melbourne were far more difficult. We did have some opportunities to still, get out of the hotel and go and do things, but it really made you probably value the break and the spell you get, after footy, or when footy's done and in the times you get off. So it just, probably heightened what I already valued in terms of being able to get that, spell or release at times, but how important the time to, reflect and like I said, sort of switch off for a bit. So it did probably elevate it, a little bit.
I'm interested. We had Jimmy Bartell in here on Monday, and he was talking about you as a footballer and where your improvements have come. And he talked about your ability to impact the scoreboard a bit more. And he talked about how it doesn't just happen, the amount of work you put into it. And he got a bit frustrated didn't he, about other players that sort of like, oh, well, you just go forward and it just happens, as opposed to working on. This is what Jimmy said. I'm interested in your thoughts off the back of this.
I know we'll sing the praises of the Bont, but you can see in Bont's game, when he's coming to the game, he's actually learnt the craft as a forward. His marking overhead has got considerably better. Like, he took one yesterday. He knows where to find space on transition, Bont. So in recent games, he's kicked goals in the last quarter, but if you actually look at the passage of play, he's understood, there's the play 70 metres away, it's coming forward, where I need to get depth quickly, because obviously the forward's coming quickly, and I lead across the forward 50. That's learning forward craft. That's actually respecting your secondary role.
How do you learn forward craft, Marcus?
Well, you need to spend time forward. That's probably the key thing, and I probably haven't as much over the last year or two. Really, last year probably definitely not as much, but I think with the added depth from a midfield perspective this year with Adam and Bailey Smith and Paddy Lipinski and others, and obviously Josh and Jack in there as some mainstays, it's probably allowed me to spend a bit more time forward. But I also think I'm benefiting from the good fortunes of my other teammates and the growth in Aaron Norton's game. Josh Bruce this year. Yeah, a few, Mitchy Hannon's come in, Anthony Scott. You've got all these types. It just seems like the complexion of our forward line fits a bit better. So I'm probably benefiting from their good decisions and able to make better probably forward, craft pattern decisions off the back of them. But a big part of it is just being able to spend time there and learn the craft in game, and that's why it's difficult to throw someone forward just at a whim and hope and expect something to happen. If good players sometimes and most of the time probably find a way, but just being able to spend time there and train as a bit of a forward at times definitely helps you develop your craft there.
Do you enjoy going forward and trying to hit the scoreboard?
I do, because I think it also benefits my midfield stuff in terms of, it gives you a break, it gives you a different way to see and play the game, so it maybe even maintains a bit of freshness as well once you get back around. The two positions are very different in terms of you're in the thick of it a lot of the time. The midfield's about, congestion and finding space, whereas forward you're often in space a lot, like you're in a one-on-one position, but you've got to run and create it a bit more, and it's a different position from even a work ethic point of view. You've got to run a lot longer and probably faster, whereas midfield's a lot more stop-starty. So it does create a bit of a different feel as well, so that hopefully it benefits both parts of the ground.
Does it give you an insight into what the forwards need out of the midfielders? Does it help in that regard? Yeah,
and that's another part of our probably discussions back end of last year was, going into different parts of the ground. You've got to, accompany those, aspects of the game. You have to take on board, how it is to play forward and what we expect and what we value and vice versa. So that was a big thing about it, being clear on what's required as a forward. You can't, as a midfielder, come down and just sort of hunt the footy. You've got to run the patterns that are required and create a contest and put yourself in difficult positions at times. So that's a big part of it, asking and expecting that from your teammates and I guess your other lines as a group. So yeah, there's a different aspect to it, but it's been going okay for us so far.
You've got a pretty big game this week too. Saturday night in Adelaide against the Power, second v third or third v second officially on the fixture. Are you watching much footy? Have you seen much of the Power through the last 4 weeks or so?
Yeah, I watch a little bit, and they're a good team. Clearly, they've got strong probably weapons on every line. They're a good stoppage and contest team, but they're got some really good defenders as well who can intercept and launch from there, and obviously Big Charlie and others up forward. So it presents as a difficult challenge and a tough task, but it's great to be a part of those games and a part of those build-ups, and I do really rate Adelaide Oval as a venue to play at and be at, and the Port supporters provide a good atmosphere,
a unique environment.
Exactly. But you enjoy sometimes being the underdog, and we don't mind that at different times and going into a foreign environment, but they do make it a great environment to play in.
Lachie Hunter, will he play?
Still not sure at this point. Like he's had surgery yesterday, so he's got a little bit probably to get through, and still a few days to probably make a decision. So yeah, still not 100% sure on that one.
We were talking yesterday about Patrick Cripps with Sam Doherty. He was in here yesterday and talking about the pressure that's on him at the moment. He's not playing particularly well. Everyone talks about his contract. Now, you're in a different situation in that you're playing unbelievably well, but people are still talking about your contract as well. I'm just interested does that play on your mind at all, the outside noise about what you're going through behind the scenes? And does it change the complexity of the conversation because you're captain and the whole thing about dedicating to the cause and all that sort of thing? What goes through your mind because you've got one of the biggest decisions of your life to make at the moment?
Not in terms of does the contract play on my mind, not personally, because I think that's a sort of separate conversation to my football and obviously playing the best I can, captaining the club probably the best I can, but being a reliable teammate is always my number one focus. So for me to continue to focus on those three things is really all I think about. And obviously week to week, us being able to grow as a team and how I continue to influence games in the best manner is sort of always my focus, regardless of sort of what's happening in the background. So that's probably my focus. I know at times it's difficult. It can become part of the storyline for some people, but at this stage it's not for me. And I guess re the discussions, like you said, it is an important decision, which, and I've probably said this all along, it takes as long as it sort of needs to. That I won't be rushed into a decision, but the most important thing for me is that the dialogue and the conversation between obviously my manager Tom and the club is going well and is important, and that's really the key for me, and it will get to obviously the result whenever we do, but as long as I guess people understand that the dialogue's really good, and both sides are happy, then that's the main thing for me.
Do you understand the interest, so the intensity with, say, a Cripps because he's not playing particularly well and the club's going okay, versus your situation, you're flying, the club's going well, so it sort of feels like, oh, everyone thinks you'll sign because you're happy and you're captain and all that sort of thing. Do you understand the speculation, the pressure that comes with it?
Yeah, I do. I totally get it. But I think each situation's different as well. And, there's a number who are probably going through similar circumstances and they'll all deal sort of with it different. So, that's probably, what's happening in this case. Yeah.
There's plenty happening in the world of the Bulldogs and you, Bon. It's great to see you in such hot form, mate. Really pleasing to watch and great to have you back in the studio
Good
as
to
well.
be back. So
And high-fiving Sherelle McMahon, two of the greats sitting in the same studio. Big night, Saturday night, 7:40. Check your local guides. Port Adelaide hosting the Bulldogs. You'll see the Bond in action. Go get 'em, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Ta.